Does anyone have a question? Somebody must have a question. Okay, I mean, I know this energy is really strong. It's not getting any less strong. And it really quiets people inside themselves, gets them calmer, more relaxed inside, and in touch with a force of energy that truly goes right to what's infinite in the universe. That's where this energy comes from. It doesn't come from me. I'm just a channel through which it flows. It comes from the source of all creative energy in the universe. That energy gives life. That energy has created this entire planet. That energy has created everything. And when we open and receive it, it creates consciousness inside ourselves. And I think that's a very wonderful thing. The awakening of spirit inside, the soul's awakening to a higher energy, receiving it, being nurtured by it, and continue to move forward to a state of enlightenment. So I'm not surprised, all the questions are really good, and they're really good because every time people ask questions, they open up a whole new train of teaching and understanding. I mean, it's just wonderful. Especially if they're good questions. Does anyone have a question? Okay, if there are no questions, there will be meditation on Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Stuart, I have a question.
Good.
What is the best way to support other people who are going through a hard time, who are not students of this work?
Well, Bob, I mean, look, you can't determine other people's karma. You can't determine the choices they make to live their life, but you can love them anyway, especially if they're close friends, if family, things like that. But look, there are 8 billion people living in the world, and there's 20 people here. I mean, when you think about it, it's absurd. For this level of energy and teachings and what goes on here, it's like a miracle. But what can I do? I can't get up on some kind of a post there and preach, Kundalini yoga to people. Understand? But at the same time, I'm not in any position to judge them. I'm not in any position to even tell them how to live their lives. I'm not in any position to tell any of you how to live your life. Understand? All I can do is surrender to God and let this energy flow. And I think that's the important thing, Bob. Your growth will do more to help them than any words you can speak to them. Any advice you can give them about what kind of meditation they should practice and do Kundalini yoga, your growth. Because in that growth, you will be able to love these people unconditionally. And not everybody is ready for this. You understand? Not everybody. You know how many thousands of students I've had in my life? I mean, it's just staggering. When I lived in Manhattan, I'll tell you just, a story. I had this, loft on 4th Avenue and 10th Street. It was a beautiful loft. And it was room to have a big room. That thing had 4,000 square feet. There was room to have a meditation center there. There was room for me to live in the back. A big kitchen, bedrooms, and it was pretty incredible. And then I had a lot of trouble with the landlord, and I had to leave. I was there 11 years, and I had to leave. And I, one of this, I had enough money then. I could have bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, maybe $250,000 at that time. Maybe a little more, but not much. I had enough money. I had enough clout at the banks to be able to support me to do things. The only reason I never did anything like that is that I had 100 to 150 people that were attending my classes every week. And if I would have bought the brownstone in Brooklyn, I probably could have gotten 8 and 10 people in the living room for a class. And it was very interesting. I went through about 60 different lofts I looked at before I found the place on 4th Avenue. And what I'm saying is, look, that was my commitment then. Commitment's a little different today. I'm just wondering where those 150 people are. But I felt totally responsible to teach them this meditation. And it's just a very interesting phenomenon. I mean, I must be grateful to every single one of them because I grew enormously because of what I did. Enormously. It was profound, it was deep. It taught me how to be a totally responsible human being to my spiritual practice. But I have to be grateful to every single person who has ever attended one of my classes. And some of them were very difficult for me to deal with. But every single person provided me with something that I needed to grow in my life. In fact, every person I meet provides me with something I need to grow in my life. And not every person I meet is going to do Kundalini yoga. So what I'm saying is you just have to do your work and grow and love them unconditionally. Be able to nurture them and do things for them and help them unconditionally. Because you really have no other choice, I mean, you could tell them about these classes, they'd be very welcome here, But are they ready to do this? If they were ready to do this, they would be beating down the door to do it. And I can't be upset at people that are not ready. They're not ready. This is very deep, profound work. And people have to be ready, really ready to do it. Which doesn't mean that I turn my back on other people or I dislike them or I don't, I just do whatever I can. And I think that also helps one to grow, because then you live a life that's unconditional. You live a life without judgment, without anything of that nature. You're just willing to accept people as they are. And I've learned that. Look, I spent years teaching in prisons, and people are, I mean, I used to have mafia guys in my class. I had all kinds of people. One guy came up to me bragging that he was busted for having the largest amount of cocaine ever smuggled into the United States. I'll never forget. This guy came up and told me that. I mean, all kinds of people. And what made it work was just unconditional love. I had one guy, I don't know if you remember him, that guy Fred. Remember Fred? I don't know if you remember him. Anyway, he was a lawyer, and he was arrested for some $30 million scam that he did on some people. And he came to the class. I'll never forget. He came 15 minutes late to the class with a group of about 7 people. And I said to them, "You have to leave." So the class started at 7 o'clock. If you came at 7 o'clock, you're very welcome. Right now, you have to leave. I can't stop the class in order to show you the breathing technique. Anyway, I met Fred after he got out of prison in Chicago. He took me out to a kosher delicatessen in Chicago. And I used to like him. I really liked the guy. He was very smart, and he said, you know why I studied with you, Stuart? I said, no, I thought you wanted a spiritual life. He said, no, it had nothing to do with that. He said, you were the first person in my life who kicked me out of a room, and I liked you when you did it. That's what he told me. And, it came to class, benefited from it. It helped him get through his prison stay. So it's, you don't know with people, you don't know what really helps them, what gives life. You just have to grow, and you have to really interact with people unconditionally. And that's the best you can do with them. And if they see that kind of love in you and growth in you, then maybe they'll say, well, what do you do? How did you get that way? But I know it's painful to see people that you really want to, especially family members, that you want to grow, you want to have a spirit. And I mean, my entire family, they think I'm nuts, what I do. Well, what am I going to do? I mean, I don't really go see them a lot anymore, but what am I going to do? You know, love them. And yet, when I'm around them, you know, it's everything I never wanted in my life. Everything. And I still have to be kind to them and love them when I'm around them, even when I'm not around them. It's not easy to see people suffer the way people suffer in this world, especially when you know they can do something about it. That's the hardest part. When you know there's a way they can work on themselves, that in 6 months they'll be able to master that intensity of suffering. When they don't, nothing gets through the haze. So what I suggest, Bob, is just continue growing the way you're growing, because you're doing really well. And just love these people. have compassion for them, the choices they've made in their life.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? Like, and just, you live that way. The one really important thing it does is it develops one's humanity. And you live with a sense of gratitude for the gifts that God has put into your life. And there's no entitlement, there's nothing. Understand? You just are grateful. And somehow you make the commitment to grow where you can be strong enough to be able to touch other people. If not through Kundalini Yoga, then many other ways. There's many other ways. Okay, if there are no more questions, then there will be meditation Sunday. And God bless you all. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
Good night, Stuart. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night.
Stuart.